Mesa.
You should be very, very scared. Each and every one of you, very, very scared.
Nancy Pelosi warns Americans to be very afraid after Republican lawmakers pass a bill that some say makes it harder for you to protect your privacy online. That bill removes an Obama-era rule that would have required your internet service provider to ask permission before compiling and sharing your information, including where you have been on the World Wide Web. And good evening, I am political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And joining us now to talk about what this measure does and its ramifications, our global privacy attorney, Kay Royal, and Leon Silver, a privacy attorney with Gordon & Reeves. Thank you very much for joining us here today. And first of all, I want to start with you, Kay. Okay. Explain to us what this Obama-era rule did.
What this Obama-era rule did. So, to start from not the real beginning, but the simple beginning, is that internet service providers were not regulated as common carriers. Common carriers bring them under a stricter regulation under the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. The FCC reclassified them as common carriers and then imposed regulations on them. And what they said is that your internet service providers, or ISPs, cannot sell your information unless they tell you they're doing so and you opt into it. Now, this was negotiated after many months of controversy because people didn't want to do it. Passed in October and would have gone into effect this December.
I was going to say, like, this was a big win for privacy experts and privacy advocates out there. It never went into effect. So what basically happens when Trump signs this measure? It basically stops this from taking place, correct?
Well, actually, nothing happens.
Yes, because they're doing this right now.
That's right. The current state of the law is that your internet service provider can sell your information, and if this doesn't take effect, they can still sell your information whether you agree to it or not.
But, you know, there's still a loophole in there, right? You can still go, at least according to Jeff Flake, the sponsor of this measure, you can still go to your internet service provider and say, don't sell my information, right?
You can. How effective that's going to be is probably as effective as it's been for the past decade, which is not really.
Really, if you go to your service provider, you say, I do not want you to collect and store this information and share it with anybody or sell it, they don't have to listen to you?
Well, there's no way to actually enforce that at this point, and that's part of what these rules would have accomplished. They would have put in place an enforcement scheme. The hardest part about finding out whether someone is selling your information is the fact that the internet service providers don't actually tell anyone what it is they're selling or what they're aggregating. So yes, you can opt out if you can work your way through pages and pages and pages of terms of agreements and other information in your service provider contract online somewhere. No one seems to really know where. You can go ahead and opt out now.
That sounds pretty simple. I mean, so Senator Flake, when I talked to him, again, sponsor of this measure, he said, why should service providers be treated any differently than, say, Google, Facebook? I mean, they collect data, they sell that out to people and private companies to help market their products and whatnot.
Well, they do, and that's part of the controversy, is that all of these online, social media especially, do collect your data and sell them. They're edge services, but your internet service provider is different. For one, you pay for it. You don't pay for most of the social media, the Googles, the Facebooks that are also collecting your data. And two, many people don't have a choice in their internet service provider. There's usually only one available or one or two available, so essentially you're forced into doing this without having much choice about it, whereas you can get off social media anytime you wish.
Yeah, it's a lot broader there because your service provider knows every place you've been. It's a little bit like someone listening in on your telephone at all the time, like if your phone company could do that, correct?
Which would be prohibited by the existing Federal Communications, the Telecommunications Act of 1934, which is where the privacy analysis starts. And they're still, to this day, trying to create an online privacy paradigm for people based on a 1934 statute and series of rules and interpretations that have happened since then.
And another important part of this measure that is that was just approved is that the FCC could not make any more rules like this in the future, correct?
Well, it's very unusual the way that they use the Congressional Review Act to take this action. That has rarely, if ever, been used, I think, once before this administration, now 3 times in this administration. And by using that particular statute, it puts a moratorium on doing anything to address these rules, which is unusual because the argument against the rules is they weren't perfect. They needed to be fixed. Now you can't fix them.
And you wanted to respond?
Well, I was just going to say, you can pass a law. That's the only thing that can get around the Congressional Review Act is Senator Flake could propose a law that would guarantee privacy protections to people's online browsing history. I'd love them to do that.
Yeah, but you guys study this stuff. Is there the political will in Congress to do that?
No.
And why is that?
Well, because here in the U.S., we take a different approach to privacy than most other countries do that have privacy laws. We don't have a right to privacy like other countries who have a right to privacy do for the general population. And the companies who are collecting, storing, using, sharing, selling your information, they don't want that ability to go away. So it's going to be very hard to get one.
But it also comes down to being large corporations with lots of money on one side of this and individual consumers on the other side. And individual consumers have limited ability to fight this unless they're willing to take up the grassroots effort to fight.
And we've talked about this before, and
yeah.
I want you to kind of explain this again to me. You told me some really interesting information about how many data points just your average social media outfit knows about you. Maybe explain a little bit that and compare that to what a service provider might know you.
Oh, absolutely. And it's crazy. I forget the exact numbers that I missed, and this is going to be a wide swath, but even if we go with the lower, 10 to 50,000 points that the social media may have about any one user is the average. So even if we just use the 10,000, can you list 10,000 things about yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
But social media can. But if you take that and draw it up to your internet service providers, it's an unbelievably exponentially larger amount of data.
And you were saying that they may know more about us than we know about ourselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And this I mean, this is a political show, so let's ask the political ramifications. Could people use this information and manipulate, say, voting behavior, voting pattern, these kinds of things?
Absolutely, and they already have. And there was a lot of discussion through the last election cycle about the collection and analysis of data from the electorate. And that would then steer the kinds of messages that were posted on someone's Facebook feed or in other places that they would get, or what news sources they would find online. So you know, they say data is the new oil. It's the biggest commodity in the world, the most valuable commodity in the world. So your internet service provider, who unlike Facebook, not only knows everywhere you went on Facebook, knows everywhere you went on your computer, can then aggregate, analyze, and sell that data to an analyst.
Now, a lot of these companies, though, say they can depersonalize a lot of this information. Maybe explain a little bit about that and how easy or hard that might be.
Well, they can, because in many cases, some of the data they're looking at might simply be browsing histories. Do people like particular websites, particular things? But the richest part of the data is not the depersonalized or the anonymous data. And I don't believe in this world of big data that anything is truly anonymous anymore. I think there's always a way for them to connect it back to you. But even if they try, the bigger money is in it being personalized. They want to target you and serve up ads to you, not to all people.
And that goes back to your first question about, your earlier question about enforcement. They're not allowed to individualize data collection or the sale of data. They can't say, I'm going to sell K-Royals data. Right. They can say, well, I'm going to sell data collected from a user in Arizona and sell it like that, and they can identify where that user's computer is and bring the ads back to them.
Well, let me ask you this, and this will be the last question. We got to wrap this up, but are we in this era maybe of post-privacy?
You know, my philosophy has been that it's not that we have our privacy, protect our privacy, and I hate to say that, that's very opposite for a privacy attorney. My philosophy is we need to reclaim our privacy.
It's a dystopian privacy universe.
Well, on that bright note, we'll just go ahead and thank you guys for stopping by here. We're going to take a quick break, but we do have lots more data to come here on Politics Unplugged. Coming up next, the Valley hosts the Final Four. We'll take a closer look at how these mega events give Arizona a chance to do some mega marketing, and a Twitter feud between Donald Trump and the Freedom Caucus, while Paul Ryan calls for unity. The GOP looks for a strategy for success. Still ahead on Politics Unplugged.
Monday night, college basketball crowns a new champion in Glendale. 3TV and CBS 5, the power of two are are there, bringing you live team coverage from the air, the ground, inside the stadium. Plus, this Valley High School hardcourt phenom is already attracting college recruiters, and he's only a freshman. Even with all that attention, his parents say,
if there's garbage, he takes out garbage.
Meet the Ginger Ninja. Monday night, live immediately following the championship game, and only on CBS 5.
If you've been in a wreck and wondering if it's too late at night to call an attorney, the answer is no.
We're Lerner & Rowe. When all other law firms can't be bothered to pick up the phone, we're available 24/7.
Lerner & Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
Learning is about more than just numbers and letters. Social and Emotional Learning, or SEL, teaches kids how to handle emotions, set goals, and make good decisions. Social awareness includes the ability to understand others from diverse backgrounds and cultures. Being able to respectfully acknowledge differences helps kids manage how they relate to others. Try this. Have children make a list of all the ways they are different from others. Then make a list of all the ways they are the same. Ask kids how recognizing our differences and similarities can make it easier to work together. Parents, caregivers, and teachers can ensure that social and emotional learning is part of a child's overall health and well-being. To find out more, visit First Book at firstbook.org/SEL. First Book is a nonprofit organization providing all children with equal access to the books and resources they need to succeed.
Hi, I'm Shawn Johnson, Olympic gymnast. I was born with an APGAR score of 0, but I went on to win gold. Every baby deserves that chance to grow up and shine. That's what March of Dimes is all about. Help me and the March of Dimes fight premature birth and birth defects. Let's work together for stronger, healthier babies. To get involved or to make a gift, visit marchofdimes.com.
We're Lerner & Rowe.
Sign here.
We sign so many checks, it seems like we're getting a new shipment of checkbooks every day.
Oh, in a wreck and need a check? You know who to call.
Lerner & Rowe is the way to go. Call 977-1900.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. And, of course, the NCAA Final Four tournament is going on in the Valley this weekend. It is a chance not only for residents to enjoy some great basketball and other events surrounding the games, but for out-of-town visitors and TV audiences to see just how great Arizona is. And joining us to talk about this is Glendale Mayor Jerry Weiers and Glenn Hammer, President of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. Thanks a lot for joining us here. First of all, I want to start with you, Mr. Mayor. How does a city like yours capitalize on an event like this?
You know, this is really a monster event. Our city's been able to capitalize in many different ways. Number one, right off the bat, our hotels, our motels are packed. And they're not just packed in my city, they're packed everywhere. You know, we have a lot of events that have been going on. Westgate is just booming right now. And bottom line, that media, the credentials that are being given to the different journalists, you know, I think there's close to like 20,000 credentials just given to the media. You know, obviously it's a big deal, or we wouldn't be here talking about it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe that's why there's such a low opinion of the media, because we've got all the NCAA tickets. So how is it then, let's talk to you then about the economic impact. Sure. What are we expecting from something like this? I know it's really hard to get specific numbers, but can you kind of ballpark something like this, what it means for the Valley?
Well, Dennis, this is a huge deal. So this one event will mean at least $150 million of economic activity for the Valley. But I think you have to look at it in a cumulative fashion. This is our fourth major event. We've had a Super Bowl, a Pro Bowl, a terrific NCAA championship football game, and now we have the Final Four. All told, in 26 months, that's about $1.5 billion worth of economic activity.
Sure. That's kind of a one-time thing, though, and we hear a lot about the marketing opportunities for Arizona. What kinds of companies have the Super Bowl, these big events, really attracted to Arizona? Can you name any?
Well, there have been a number of companies that have come to these events and then have worked with our economic development organizations like the Arizona Commerce Authority and have made decisions to expand or to come here. But I think the broader point is that tourism is one of the base industries in the state of Arizona, and sports tourism brings in a lot of people, not just companies, but a lot of visitors that come to Arizona. And what do, Dennis? They look at buying a second home. They think about moving their small business here. It's a gateway for a lot of good economic activity in the state of Arizona.
You're on the ground level of that. Are you talking to CEOs when they're coming to town, or are coming to this event, they come back 6 months later and say, hey, Mayor Weiers, we were out there for the Super Bowl, we were out there for this Final Four, we'd love to come and talk to you about doing business.
Well, let me correct one thing. I said 20,000, 2,000 credentialed. Okay. So I want to get that correct. But yes, in fact, we just had a meeting yesterday morning with GPEC, Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and they're very excited with these events because it gives them an opportunity to take those guys, the top brass from these different Fortune 1000 companies, give them a chance to show the entire valley, not just my city, not just Phoenix, but the entire valley, all the opportunities that are out here. You know, and these guys get to experience great weather. I mean, I heard Seattle just had like 15 days of sunshine and the rest of it was cloudy or rainy or snowy. It's pretty easy to show somebody the difference when they come down here and we have sunshine all the time. You know, motorcycle riding weather, flying weather, golfing weather, swimming weather, we got it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, visitors may come to Arizona to take advantage of the great weather, and that is all great, but for us who live there, we get traffic jams and we get a lot of congestion. What do you hear from your constituents about that?
Well, you know, and again, we've done a great job as far as Maricopa Association of Governments, as far as getting the freeway systems taken care of, under control. That's a big thing to look at. And then probably the thing that I think everybody is not paying attention to, you know, last year Maricopa County was the fastest growing county, not in Arizona, but in the nation. People want to come here.
And Dennis, this isn't New York. We're polite people, so we'll wait a little bit.
You might.
Well, I'm from New York.
You haven't been behind Dennis lately.
This is one of the great things about Arizona is how welcoming the communities and the people are. So we're welcoming. We know about 90% of the people who are going to attend these games are from out of state. It's a great chance for Arizona to continue to put its best feet and face forward.
And what about the hit? Is there a hit to a taxpayer and something like this? I know that there's a lot of economic activity that's generated, but we saw this. I know during the NFL there was quite a battle between your city and the NFL over security costs. We're seeing that here with NCAA.
You know, the one thing that we understand in Glendale is first and foremost that we have to provide public safety. There's no question about it, and we'll do that. We'll do a good job of it. Sure. We still have to make certain that our citizens that aren't going to the game, that are conducting everyday normal business, that when they dial 911, they're going to have that response from fire or police. But we also understand the importance of being a team player within this state, within this valley. And what Glendale does at our stadium, I mean, the events won't happen without our stadium, but you know what? The events probably wouldn't happen without the help of all the other cities, too. We don't have enough hotels for everybody. So it is a regional issue that we do. We understand that we are going to have a piece of that puzzle that we're going to have to pay for, but at the same time, when you start looking at the amount of media coverage that we get and the amount of times people say Glendale, Arizona, you can't buy that coverage. You can't put a cost to that.
And you want to jump in here.
Well, this is an extraordinarily positive thing for our state in any way. I mean, when you get one of these mega sporting events like the Super Bowl or an NCAA Final Four, I mean, you're not only communicating to every state in the country, I mean, think about basketball. It's probably the most international of sports. This is going to go out to the entire world. So this is a great opportunity for Arizona, and the benefits are just extraordinary.
So let me talk to you though, and follow up on this. You know, you'd mentioned the Super Bowl, now the NCAA, and all these other big events. We've been on a roll lately, but it looks like, you know, the foreseeable future, that's not going to happen. And you know, it seems like the state is competing more and more with other new stadiums being built in other states.
I'm confident that we'll continue to be in the rotation for these elite games. But Dennis, an important thing is we have great professional franchises. The Waste Management Open, the best golf tournament on planet Earth, the largest golf tournament, the most enjoyable, if I may add.
I think some people in Augusta, Georgia might disagree with you.
And we just finished, you know, we're basically, this spring training season, the Cubs shattered an all-time Major League Baseball record. The D-backs broke its own personal record. So we've got great things that happen every year, but we'll continue to compete for these mega events.
All right, I want to give you the last word on this. Can Glendale, and how can Glendale compete in the future for these big events?
We're going to keep doing exactly what we've been doing, because we've proven over and over and over and over again that we got game. You know, that's Glendale's slogan. Glendale's got game. But we've proven that not only do we have game, but we can let the fans come to the game, do what they intend to do, and that's enjoy the game without worrying about their safety. You know, that's my job. I'm going to worry about those types of things. The fans don't have to.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to have to take another quick commercial break, but we do have lots more to talk about here on Politics Unplugged. Just ahead, the GOP looks to go it alone.
What I worry about, Nora, is that if we don't do this, then he'll just go work with Democrats.
Paul Ryan says party first on the same day President Trump calls out some of his own. Coming up next on Politics Unplugged.
Is coming. Gear up at Harley-Davidson of Scottsdale. Who loves you, baby?
When you call a plumber out, you expect that that person will be professional, well-groomed.
And most importantly for me, that I feel safe in my home. Plumbing Masters got a plumber out right away. They took care of our problem. It was a nice, clean job. My 3 dogs really enjoyed his company. I knew he was a good guy.
Plumbing Masters is the best I've ever dealt with.
They really do smell good.
Call 331-0001. Plumbing Masters will get the job done.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was scared and shy. It was hard to look at people's faces. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. I made friends and won lots of gold medals. But I learned more than just playing golf. Special Olympics helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
He was a legend on the ball field and a leader in uniform. Now, for the first time, 3TV and CBS 5 are joining forces to honor Arizona's hero, Pat Tillman. Join us Saturday, April 22nd for the 13th annual Pat's Run, presented by Tech Systems. By supporting the Pat Tillman Foundation, you'll empower more Tillman scholars to become leaders for our country. Register now and continue Pat's legacy, and only from 3TV and CBS 5.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It is now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic. And with us today is Marcus Dellartino and Kurt Davis. Thank you both for being here. I wanted to start off, you were here and you watched the discussion we had on internet privacy, the measure that was proposed by Senator Jeff Flake, and you had a pretty interesting perspective on this.
Well, the way that rule was written was much larger than just privacy. It would actually turn ISP providers into a utility. And you want to talk about wiping out competition and having higher rates for your internet connection, that's what would happen.
Explain a little bit about how it would do that in your opinion.
Well, the regulatory scheme they wanted to put in place really does regulate them as a utility. A carrier, as they describe, that's a nice word for utility. Utilities can't function in the marketplace and change their pricing. Your $19 deal to have 1 gigabit of speed would be gone because you'd have to go to government to get approval to change your rates.
All right. Now let's move on to another big topic of the last week. We're talking about Donald Trump here taking on members of the Freedom Caucus. I know you just love talking about Donald Trump week in, week out, but obviously, what's the win here? What's the angle that Trump is doing by attacking members of his own party?
Well, it's such a bizarre week, and this is just a bizarre faction. But I want to go back to the point of this is why you and I always have the discussion over be cautious of calling Donald Trump a Republican. He's really a populist. And there's nothing, and it's clear in this move. He's attacking the Freedom Caucus, which everybody needs to ironically were the people that most supported him during his presidential run. Your question earlier was, is there danger to members? We've certainly got a few of them here in Arizona, and I don't think there is, frankly, because there's too many targets for him to shoot at in the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, because there's 32 members of the Freedom Caucus by most counts out there. 4 of those members are here in Arizona. Now, if anybody here vulnerable to Donald Trump, if he decides next year, I'm going to target these people, anybody should be worried.
I think, quite frankly, every Republican member and President Trump should be worried. By not getting this job done, they are all at risk. And the first risk is losing the majority, and the second risk is losing individual members. This was, and as a Republican, a colossal failure to get the job done.
And do you think Trump would expend political capital of his own to come after these types of Republicans, someone like a Paul Gosar, where we know that Donald Trump was very popular up in his district? Would he come out here and campaign and stump against or maybe for an opponent of somebody like that in a Republican primary?
Look, if you're going to do one, then if you're making the argument, if you're going to do one, you've got to do all the members, and I just don't think that there's a framework allowed to do that. Is there certainly a possibility that one individual member irritates Donald Trump enough that he spends significant capital? Absolutely. But I don't think he's going to be on a widespread scale.
Draining the swamp is tough business.
Yeah. As he clearly just found out.
It sure is. Now, there's one last question. I mean, is there really a Republican Party at this point? Or how would you describe it?
Well, I think Marcus has described it. We have a populist faction in Washington. We have a what I would call traditional conservative faction in Washington. And then we also have an economic conservative faction within Washington. And you saw the battle among all 3 of those. That does not bode well, though, if you're going to be able to appear to the American public that you can handle being the majority in both houses and the presidency. And this is a bad start, period.
All right, and at the same time, House Speaker Paul Ryan is putting his own type of pressure on the Freedom Caucus himself, saying that if they don't sign up, the president will look elsewhere for support. Here, let's take a listen to what he had to say.
This is a can-do president who's a business guy who wants to get things done. And I know that he wants to get things done with the Republican Congress. But if this Republican Congress allows the perfect to be the enemy of the good, I worry will push the president into working with Democrats.
What's up? What was up with that? This is a guy who lionizes Republican President Ronald Reagan, who famously worked with Tip O'Neill, the Democrat Speaker of the House. What's behind all this?
Well, he's absolutely right. And you've already seen the setup for it happening. He's had the Democratic members over to the White House the other evening for dinner and couldn't have been nicer and said, Chuck Schumer, I know we're going to get this done together. The president's already signaled that's where he's going yet. And Paul Ryan's right.
Does Paul Ryan have any power? I mean, is he weakened after all this? Can he keep people in line?
He is weakened. I mean, the honest truth is he's weakened, but most importantly, the entire Republican majority is weakened. And as a Republican, I'm worried about it. These guys need to get their act together, and they need to start effectively moving the country forward. And right now, it looks like a clown show.
All right, we're going to finish off with another big storyline on the bikes. Michael Flynn, the shortest-serving national security advisor in American history, said that he would talk to investigators in Congress as long as they gave him immunity. What should we be reading into this?
American public should read nothing into the fact that he asked for immunity. Everybody, and I mean everybody who's ever gotten a subpoena from Congress has asked for immunity. Anybody who's ever offered to testify without a subpoena has asked for immunity. It's a standard operating business to do that. But I will tell you, I will be happy to be watching that.
All right, well, that is all the time we have tonight. Be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged.